Are you a Hawkeye fan living in Story County? Well, if you are, great. If not, we've still got you covered. Introducing From the Hawkeye of the Storm, your source for original Iowa content from the Eye of the Storm, the Hawkeye of the Storm, Ames, Iowa. That's right. Our Hawkeye platform, hosted by StoryCounty.News, strives to offer a unique perspective that you won't find anywhere else. Despite living amid the sea of red that is Cyclone Country, we make it our aim to entertain and inform Hawkeye fans everywhere. From live programming following an Iowa athletic event to our on-demand podcast, Brada's Branded Thoughts, which you can access through YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Anchor, Amazon, and more, our goal is to always offer cutting-edge black and gold content. In addition, catch our weekly college football picks throughout the season as you get prepped for the weekend ahead. And the great thing about all of our content is it's all free. Join us regularly here at From the Hawkeye of the Storm, and be sure to subscribe to our sister channel, Iowa Football at the Voice of College Football. That's Iowa Football at the Voice of College Football on YouTube, as we have teamed up with Mark Rogers and former Iowa football assistant coach Don Patterson to bring you live post-game shows after every Iowa football game. Watch, chat, and even call in to let your voice be heard each and every weekend this fall. Want to learn how you can further support us? Visit our video description on each and every YouTube video we publish, and then, of course, enjoy the content. It's From the Hawkeye of the Storm, hosted by StoryCounty.News, for the best Hawkeye content in the area. Week 185 of Brada's Branded Thoughts here From the Hawkeye of the Storm. Citrus Bowl just about, a little over a week away. And Iowa basketball kind of in a bit of a slow part of the season right now because, of course, they had the long break for finals. They beat Utah State. They beat Southeastern Louisiana. Then they have another 8-day break. They'll play Western Illinois, I believe, next Wednesday. And so sort of a slow time of the season, but then get back into Big Ten play. So things will ramp up starting next week. We've got a really fun show for you this evening. Aaron Graves, Iowa defensive end signee Aaron Graves, will be joining us in minutes to discuss his commitment. And now he's officially a Hawkeye. His signing day has come and passed. And certainly Aaron, excited to be a Hawkeye. We'll talk to him about his future at Iowa, and man alive, this kid's going to be really good. And again, we'll talk to him in just a few moments. All right, I do want to address a couple of things before we throw it over to our interview with Aaron Graves. First of all, the transfer portal is still extremely, extremely active. Not a lot of rumblings as far as Iowa connections or connections to Iowa coaching staff members. Of course, you can, if you really want to scour who Iowa might be interested in, I guess you can follow Tyler Barnes, the recruiting coordinator for Iowa. Follow who he's following on Twitter, and you'll know, I guess, who some of the guys who maybe Iowa's interested in the portal in. But since we've discussed this recently, we have talked about it on this channel and over at the Voice of College Football channel, just a number of starting quarterbacks entering the portal, and it's incredible. This just continues. A couple of these guys entering the portal after bowl games, not just at quarterback, but at wide receiver and other positions where guys are starting. And that's just the era we're in. It's almost free agency out there. I'm not saying it's good for college football or bad for college football, but it is what it is. And as I've stated in the past, if Iowa does not utilize the portal, they will fall behind because you've got to be able to form yourself with the times or adjust as conditions change. So let's run through the quarterbacks who are still available in the portal, and not just quarterbacks, because I know, again, my opinion if you listen to the show. I do believe Iowa needs to be in the portal at quarterback. We've talked about this ad nauseum, so we will run through some quarterbacks, and then we'll run through a couple other guys who Iowa, it appears, might be interested in based upon rumors and just social media hype, I guess you could say. So first of all, Levi Williams entered the portal earlier this week. He was the starter at Wyoming, and a kid who, wasn't really highly touted out of high school. He was a 3-star recruit out of Texas, Spring Branch, Texas, and he had an offer from Houston and an offer from Wyoming. That's, I believe, the only offers he had. So not a really highly touted kid, but he rushed for 200 yards against Kent State the other day, which is impressive. You recall Iowa had some offensive struggles against the Golden Flashes earlier this year. Levi Williams, I believe, didn't throw for a lot of yards in that game, but again, 200 yards on the ground. Excellent runner. He's 6'4". He is a pro-style quarterback according to 247 Sports, but man, the kid can run. So you wonder, potentially, is there a connection there? Of course, the physical connection that Iowa has to that program is Tim Polasek. Tim Polasek was Iowa's offensive line coach up until last year. He took the offensive coordinator position at Wyoming. He's also the quarterbacks coach for Wyoming, the Cowboys. So he was Levi Williams' position coach. So if it was any other Mountain West school, I may not bring this up as much as I have over the past 24 hours on this platform and on Twitter, but because of the connection with Tim Polasek, you have to wonder if perhaps there is interest from Iowa. Again, I have no inside information to support that. He is a guy who runs more than he throws, but he was recruited as a pro-style quarterback out of high school, and there's a lot of, if you read through some Wyoming Twitter accounts and message boards, you hear a lot of people complaining about Wyoming's offense not utilizing him like they'd like. Now, there might be Iowa fans who would say the same thing if they were in the position, and that's understandable. We went through play calling and philosophy under Iowa's offensive coaching staff. But Levi Williams is out there. He's officially in the portal. Braxton Burmeister, another kid. And by the way, I'm not endorsing any of these kids. That they are kids that Iowa needs to go after. All right, I want to establish that now. There is no way for me to be able to tell definitively that any of these kids would fit in the Iowa system, but I think it's fair to say, hey, this guy's worth a contact, or this guy's worth a contact. Braxton Burmeister is probably worth a contact by Iowa. It was the starter at Virginia Tech. He's a dual-threat quarterback. Had a decent year. Virginia Tech did not have a good year at all. And again, he's a kid who's more comfortable on the run. He had a pretty good recruitment. He actually originally was at Oregon, transferred to Virginia Tech. He'd now be a graduate transfer, so he'd fit in from a timeline standpoint, because if you assume that Iowa's confident in guys like Linez and guys like Carson May coming in a year or two and being the guy, Braxton Burmeister can give you a year, and perhaps that would be a guy to contact. And he had a great number of offers coming out of high school: Washington, Utah, Illinois, Indiana, Oregon State, San Diego State, South Carolina, Florida, Cal, Colorado, Arizona, Boston College, Oregon, and of course he ended up at Virginia Tech. But they're going through a coaching change, going through some problems, so he is in the portal again. Was the starter this season at Virginia Tech. All right, moving along. Casey Thompson, another guy we've brought up in the past. He is still available, although 247 Sports is predicting that he ends up with the TCU Horned Frogs. Casey was a 3-star prospect out of high school, a 4-star prospect out of high school in the 2018 class. Again, good year, but Texas is going through a kind of a transformation. That loss to Kansas was ugly. That program's just not in a great spot. They have gotten some transfers in. Quinn Ewers comes over from Ohio State, so perhaps that was what sort of pushed Casey Thompson along. But certainly, 6'1", 194, again, a kid who can pass out of the pocket but certainly can move, would be a kid you'd have to think Iowa at least looks at and perhaps contacts. Okay. Todd Centeo's in the portal. I don't think Iowa's going to go after him. He, of course, the quarterback at Colorado State. Iowa signed Kinnick earlier this year. Bo Nix is off the board. He goes from Auburn to Oregon. Keaton Slovis, we talked about him. He's gone. He committed to Pitt. Zach Calzada is still out there. We heard rumblings that he was going to commit to Pitt. I can't imagine him committing to the Panthers now. He's got 3 years of eligibility remaining, but since Slovis is going to Pittsburgh, I can't imagine that Calzada would end up there as well. Perhaps the number one quarterback that we haven't been talking about is Cameron Ward. Kid from Incarnate Word out of high school, had no stars, had interest from a couple FCS programs. Now everybody wants him. Been hearing that Ole Miss is in on him hard. He's gotten attention from some other schools as well. Have not heard anything about Iowa being interested, but man, this kid can sling it all over the field. Again, he's an athlete. I know it's the FCS level, but man, he was impressive. His numbers just ridiculous this year for Incarnate Word. Max Johnson, the quarterback for LSU, is off the board. He goes to A&M, so that kind of seals the deal on Calzada leaving, you'd have to think. with Max Johnson heading there, and his brother, the big tight end recruit in the class of 22, is heading there as well. Michael Penix off the board, Indiana quarterback. He is headed to Washington. Quinn Ewers, we mentioned, from Ohio State, going to Texas. Tyson Fumachan, we've talked about him from Clemson, the backup, was recruited by Iowa in 19, as was Calzada. He is still on the board. Adrian Martinez, there were rumors that he was recruited by Iowa in the portal. I have not heard any of that substantiated. He is now committed to Kansas State. Deuce Hogan, still out there. Of course, Iowa quarterback, he's not coming back to Iowa. I would be shocked by that. Jack Plummer, we keep hearing that he is headed to Cal, but have not seen anything official from Jack. He's a mobile kid, but again, no reason to think Iowa's interested there. Spencer Rattler heads from Oklahoma to South Carolina. Zach Gibson, kid from Akron, the Zips, he is headed to Georgia Tech. Zach Annexstad, you'll recognize that name, the quarterback that lost his job at Minnesota. He is in the portal as well. Jack Miller goes from Ohio State to Florida. Dylan Gabriel goes from Central Florida to UCLA. Maddox Kopp, the kid from Houston, heads to Colorado. I mean, it's just incredible, the number. And these are all kids who have played, many of which were starters at Power 5 programs. Chubba Purdy goes from Florida State. Well, he's actually still in the portal, so Purdy's out there. I can't imagine that he's shown Iowa enough to really generate any interest. As I'd say the same thing about Harrison Bailey at Tennessee. He is still out there as well, has been out there for a couple of months. Scrolling through here, anybody else that pops off the screen that's currently in the portal, and I'm really not seeing anybody. So there's your list, folks. A lot of kids still available. I made the comment a couple weeks ago that the portal at quarterback is going to be dried up by the time we hit January 1st. That may not be the case, but again, there's no reason to be waiting right now. And I'm not saying Iowa's waiting to make a move. They may not have any desire to make a move. They may not believe they need to make a move at quarterback. You may not believe that Iowa needs to make a move at quarterback. I've been saying it for a long time. I think they do. And now new adds to the portal in Levi Williams, Braxton Burmeister, Casey Thompson, all tell me, hey, they need to make a move. Perhaps they will. Now, another kid who just entered the portal today we didn't mention, and his name is actually not officially in the portal, but it was reported and confirmed earlier that Connor Bazelak, quarterback at Missouri, has entered the portal. Now, I tweeted something out about this. Somebody immediately responded on Twitter and said, hey, the kid lost his job to a freshman. My understanding is Bazelak did lose his job heading into the bowl game, but he's also dealing with a leg injury, according to multiple reports. He did win co-freshman of the year in the SEC in 2020. Again, not saying he's the right guy, not saying that you just take anybody you can get from the Power 5, but man alive, again, he's a Midwest guy. At least he's been playing in the Midwest. It's worth a call. It's worth a contact. So Connor Bazelak, again, is moving on from Missouri. So, just so many guys still out there. Some guys, again, Bo Nix and Slovis and those guys off the board. But if you're Iowa, to me, there's no reason not to be reaching out to some of these kids as soon as possible. And maybe they are. Maybe they are. We keep saying that. I've heard nothing to give me any. I've heard nothing to give me reason to think they are reaching out to any quarterbacks. I haven't, but maybe they'll prove me wrong. As far as other transfers out there, will Iowa seek the services of another transfer from either the Power 5 level or the Group of 5 level? I can tell you this, if you want to really get into this. According to Iowa Coach Alert, which is a Twitter account that monitors all the Iowa coaches and who they start following on Twitter, which, that kind of stuff kind of excites me when we're sitting in a lull and there's no football, no real news to talk about. So I will give you an idea of a couple of the guys that were on the board here recently that apparently are being followed by Iowa recruiting coordinator Tyler Barnes. So first of all, the kid from Wyoming, Isaiah Nair, and you may recognize that name if you watch the Potato Bowl, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Hit a big game for Wyoming with Levi Williams, actually. Tyler Barnes did start following him, so perhaps he's a kid that's on Iowa's radar. I don't really know that Iowa needs a wide receiver, but again, they have a connection to Wyoming with Tim Polasek, so perhaps you could generate a package deal with Nair and Levi Williams. I guess that's a question. Another kid that was followed by Tyler Barnes is Gabe Judy, cornerback from Vanderbilt. He is in the portal as well. and he's a kid that Tyler Barnes is now following on Twitter, and then Jeremiah Lewis, another kid that he's following on Twitter. Now, again, this is, we're kind of really reaching here, having to and again, some people, I am sort of intrigued by it, especially during slow news weeks, but again, you're just reaching for something to tell you that Iowa's active in the portal. You know that they're looking at the portal. You know they're keeping, Tyler Barnes, I'm sure that's what he's busiest with this time of year, is looking at the college football transfer portal. But again, have heard nothing substantial about anything, including quarterback, especially quarterback. But we'll see. We'll wait and see. You hope maybe we start hearing something. And who knows? We could have a lot more quarterbacks, especially, Levi Williams and Isaiah Nair. Those kids were playing 2 days ago, and now all of a sudden they're in the transfer portal. So we very well could see guys enter the portal days after their game or the day after the game. That's just the era we live in. And again, if you don't want to fall behind, you have to figure out a way to take advantage of it. All right. Iowa men's basketball, we mentioned they're going to be back on the court against Western Illinois next week. Stay tuned for our post-game show after that game next Wednesday with Coach Gary Close. For now, we're going to turn our attention to our interview with Aaron Graves, Iowa defensive end Aaron Graves. Enjoy the interview with a guy who I think Iowa sees as the next great pass rusher in the black and gold. Again, let's give our attention to Aaron Graves, 4-star defensive end commit out of Gowrie, Iowa. Enjoy the interview. Pleased to be joined by Iowa class of 2022 defensive end commit Aaron Graves. And I want to start off this show, Aaron, talking about the success that your SV Jags are coming off of with a state title, 2A level. And congratulations, first of all, on the championship. I see you're sporting your champion's hat, and rightfully so. Congratulations. First of all, before we get into Iowa and how you fit into the mold for this Phil Parker defense, let's talk a little bit about your high school experience. You see this kind of winding to a close now, certainly your playing career. What's it been like? You're a small-town Iowa guy, so I know we have something in common right there, and it's just great to see someone out of the small town of Gowrie, and I know you live in Dayton, but what's it been like, the high school experience?
Yeah, I think the senior season was definitely special in particular. Just bringing home a state championship was really big for our community, and they really rallied behind us too. And it was the first time in school history that we had gotten a state championship. So I just think that it was really special, especially being my last season at Southeast Valley. It was just extra special.
When you look back on this season, what's the biggest memory? And obviously you can say, the state title game, but what's the best memory of it all? Is there something that you're going to blindside me with?
I think it's just hanging out with the guys all the time. We'd have team time at least once a week. We'd hang out all the time outside of practice, and I just think that the bonds that we had within the team chemistry we had was really special, and that a lot of teams can't say that they have. Yeah, I just think that the brotherhood that was made throughout the season was extra special.
I don't want to rush you away from high school. I know Kirk Ferentz talked earlier this week about how some kids are just really anxious to leave high school, and he kind of wants to slow them down a bit. So I'm sure he'd say the same if he was listening to this interview. But let's kind of talk a little bit about how you fit in with Iowa. I know you committed to Iowa, first of all, at a pretty young age. This has been your school of choice. Is there ever any doubt that you were a Hawkeye?
No, I grew up a Hawkeye fan, and I just really like what the coaching staff does in terms of developing players. And so, there was never a question where I wanted to go. I truly believe that, Iowa is the best program in the country in terms of developing the athletes that they get. So I just think when I get there, they're going to make me the best player possible. So there's no doubt.
And so, thinking about just your journey, and again, for anybody who doesn't know, of course, anybody who listens to our show knows that I broadcast from Ames, and Aaron is from Dayton, which is maybe a 45 minute drive from Ames. Were we up the what is it, Highway 69 and over on one of the little county roads, right?
Yep.
Famous for the Dayton rodeo. You talked before we went live here that you had a chance at some mutton busting when you were younger, but you kind of exceeded the weight limit, I would guess.
Yep.
on that activity, but proving the doubters wrong. Growing up in a small town community, especially in Iowa, I know you were born and raised an Iowa fan, but what has that been like trying to, if you've even thought about it, dealing with the doubters and trying to prove them wrong, knowing that a kid from a Gowrie/Dayton can get it done and earn a Big Ten spot?
Yeah, I don't really think there are too many people just saying like, telling me I couldn't do it or anything like that. And I don't think I was ever at a point where I was saying like, oh, I'm gonna get this, like I'm gonna get a D1 offer. It kind of just happened after my freshman year after I played well. So I just think that me being able to come from a town that has 800 people in it and being able to make it to a Division I college just kind of proves that if you put in the work, then you can do it. And I just don't really think that there are too many people telling me I couldn't. But in our community, it's like it doesn't ever happen. So I don't even think it was really on anybody's radar until I was actually offered.
So I got to ask you, Aaron, you committed a good year and a half before anybody else in this class. So you were hanging out by yourself for a while.
Yeah.
And, let's just be frank. There were some concerns amongst Iowa fans that this class was kind of falling behind, although we're going to talk about what you bring to the program, which is exceptional. And it was great that Iowa was able to grab a commitment from you early. But were you concerned at all with the slow start? I know COVID had a role in that. Were you concerned with the slow start for your class and for Iowa?
I wasn't really too concerned. I knew I was the youngest commit ever in Iowa history. So, kids usually wait till junior, senior year to commit. So, we got a good group now, and we still got more on the way. So there's still a few that haven't yet committed, and so I think there's still more. So I don't think I was really ever too worried. I have faith in the coaching staff that they'll reach out to the kids they want and sell the school well. So
absolutely. And I got to ask you this question. This is not something that is necessarily over. And I know Kirk has talked about this with the program, but some of the issues last summer, or I guess allegations against the coaching staff, did those make you bat your eyes at all? Did you have conversations? What was that process like when some of those allegations were being made?
Yeah, I had met Doyle a little bit, so I didn't really know him that well. And I knew Coach Ferentz was a great guy. I sat down and talked to him for a good amount of time before any of the allegations came out. And I knew that, under him, that when the allegations came out, I just knew that there would be change and that he would handle it gracefully and well. And I think that's definitely happened since. So, I just think that when he has the reins of the program, that it's headed in the right direction, even with adversity like that. So,
and let's remind everybody, you were the only commit at the time when last summer and all this happened. So there were some concerns at least from the outside, maybe not from the inside, from the outside about the class. And so that's why I wanted to ask you about that. And certainly everything we've heard would indicate that Kirk is taking those steps and has taken those steps. Was that just from purely a strength and conditioning standpoint? How big of a hit was that? Let's just be honest. Losing Chris Doyle and knowing that he was going to be a big part of your development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I knew Chris Doyle was one of the best strength coaches in the country, but the guy that is taking over now, Coach Braithwaite, he knows everything that Coach Doyle does. He's been under him for however many. I think it's like 10 plus, I want to say. So, he knows the system, and it's not like he has to rebuild the whole culture from scratch, and he's just coming in from the outside. And he knows the program, and he knows what is expected of these kids physically. And so I think he's more than capable of doing what Coach Doyle did.
Okay. So for anybody not familiar, Aaron Graves, earliest commit in Iowa history, right?
Yep.
For Iowa football history, 6'5". We updated this because some of the recruiting databases have your weight a little bit lower than it is. You're getting a head start on the Kelvin Bell system at 270. and I want to give my thoughts as far as what I've been able to observe just off tape. And I always put a little asterisk by that comment. And as you know, tape is one thing, performance on game day is another. And certainly you've shown yourself well on both accounts. But what do you bring to Iowa that will stand out? And I want to, I'll throw this back around after you're done answering this question, specifically to how this Iowa defensive line is progressing now. But what do you bring to the table that you think will stand out?
Yeah, so when I went on my official visit, I sat down and talked with Coach Bell, and he told us that the Iowa defensive linemen aren't DNs, or they aren't nose tackles, they aren't D tackles, they're just D line. So I mean, I think that what I bring is I can play anywhere from D end out on the edge and rush the passer, or I can, stop the run on the inside and stick there too. I mean, my senior year, I moved to nose guard for our high school football team because we changed to a 3 front. And my freshman through junior, I played D end. So, I think I have experience at both, and I think I can do both well. And so I just think that versatility is something that Iowa definitely likes and something that I bring to the table.
Your quickness off the line stood out to me. I mean, just how quickly you get off the ball, and then, of course, strength of finish. And we're watching tape again, both of you, offensively and defensively. For a second, I thought I was looking at Tyler Linderbaum with some of your blocks, because you got a guy 20 yards down the field. And I have a feeling once you get to Iowa that your last name is going to become a trademark, like, Aaron, take your man to the graves or something like that. I'm just, I'm going to trademark that now. And then, of course, your motor. And let's be honest, Iowa guys have to have a motor. I mean, that's just Zach Van Valkenburg is a perfect example of that. Joe Evans, he's an Ames guy. Perfect example of that. Am I right on these assessments?
Yeah, I would definitely think I think you hit on the spot. Yeah, I do offense and defense, obviously, and I'm on every special team, so I don't really ever come off the field during a game. And, I can get tired, but I don't really think that affects how I play all that much. And, yeah, like I said, I played nose guard this year, so you couldn't really see the quickness off the line that much because, I mean, I was into somebody right off the line. But, I mean, still my reps at DN this year that I did have, I thought I was more explosive than in the past. And, yeah, I think you hit it on the spot.
Do you know how to finish? And that's one thing that I think, again, stands out is you're finishing every play. And not to downplay the Class 2A level, but you worry, and I even relate it back to, and this is going to sound sad, but as we're recording this, Iowa basketball is in its early non-conference schedule, and I always worry about complacency when you have competition that maybe doesn't match up to your talent levels, and Iowa's done a nice job handling that, but I would equate that to what maybe you've dealt with at times to where you are overmatching your opponent time and time again, but I don't personally, I've not seen a drop-off in your motor and, again, in your desire to finish. Mm-hmm. So that stands out, certainly. Goals. I mean, obviously, we know your goal is your goal to be a Division I Power 5 Big Ten football player is being realized now. I'm sure one of your goals, Matt Campbell may debate me on this, but I'm assuming one of your goals is to win a championship. Matt has kind of downplayed that. But what are your thoughts on the future? What are your goals, your immediate goals, and maybe some of your long-term goals? Yeah,
I definitely think just getting better every day has kind of been the main focus with me throughout high school. I try not to set my eyes on like awards and things. Like, all those things are good to strive to get. Obviously, those are good things. I just try and think about the near future and what I can do within the next day or week to get better. But yeah, I mean, looking ahead, I would say a Big Ten championship would definitely be something that I want to bring to Iowa, and that the group of guys that are coming in with me want to bring. And I definitely think that's a big goal. And but yeah, just the bigger thing is just getting better every single day. That's my main goal. I mean, if you do that, you're gonna be a lot better when it comes time to play.
Absolutely. And your relationship with Kelvin Bell and maybe your relationship with Phil Parker, what's that been like?
So Coach Bell and I talk a little more than Coach Parker, but yeah, I really like Coach Bell. He's a really nice guy, and clearly knows what he's doing on the football field. Just from the couple talks we've had about football. I mean, there's been a few games where he FaceTimes me before, and like before the kickoff of one of their games, and he tells me the O-line rundown and what the opposing team brings and what the game plan was for that week and the D-line. So I just think those calls are really cool, and great guy.
I have to ask you this, Aaron. Your journey to Iowa, and I asked you this earlier, what sold you on Iowa, but again, you committed so early. What's the recruiting experience been like since you committed? Because it is different than most kids. I mean, did you have a lot of schools trying? I'm assuming you had schools trying to get you to decommit. What was that like after your commitment?
Yeah, I mean, the visits and things, it was just getting like familiar with the campus and the facilities and stuff, just being like, this is where I'm going to be. So get used to it now. That way, when I get there, it's not like too much of a overwhelming experience. And yeah, I did have a couple other, like Notre Dame, they sent me a lot of mail, and I think Penn State did a little bit. But I think most schools kind of knew that I was a Hawkeye, and so they didn't really fight too much on it. So
if you go to play Penn State, you may have to learn how to take a dive and to fake some injuries. A little zing for James Franklin there. Okay, so let's lighten this up to finish off our discussion. Hobbies other than football. You and I talked before we went on, and I said, hey, the only thing I know about Gowrie is that they got a little golf course up there, and they used to have a really cool little deal, and you get a cart, and it'd been like $10 for like 18 holes on a Friday. I think that's went up now since COVID. But that's all I know about Gowrie. You're not a rodeo guy, it doesn't sound like. So, I mean, you're not going to get hurt like Kyler Schott did baling hay, are you? I mean, that's kind of the small town impression that people have about small town Iowa. So what do you do in your free time?
We have a Frisbee golf course in Dayton. Actually, that's something that me and my friends have gotten into a decent amount. So yeah, we like to go do that. It's definitely not as expensive as golf, so that's a plus side of it. It's pretty easy to learn. So yeah, we play that a lot, and otherwise, normally we just hang out like together as like in our friend group. Sometimes we'll play like cards and stuff and kind of that thing. And just like in the moment, what do you feel like doing? I mean, other than Frisbee golf, we don't really have too much of like a hobby that we do regularly other than just hang out. So
you're not a video games guy?
No, I don't like video games that much.
Good.
No.
I commend you for that. Not that there's anything wrong with video games, but
I'm pretty hard at all of them, so
okay.
I can't get into them.
Okay, so kind of my final question here, Aaron. Plans to enroll early? What's the outlook here for the next few months?
I'm not enrolling early. I am going to finish high school, so something that's been a goal of mine since I was a freshman was to graduate college before I graduated high school. So I plan on having 2 full years of college done from Iowa Central, which is like a community college right by us, and have my AA degree. But by the time I graduate from high school, so then I'll get to Iowa and be able to go right into my bachelor classes, and then if I stay for 4 years, then get my master's too, all paid for.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, Aaron, and I know it's been a long time coming. I'm sure, certainly these past couple of years, I think for everybody, just with the virus and just everything that's happened, it's went by sort of slow, but you've also had some tremendous experiences, which I know you'll treasure moving forward. We appreciate you helping our listeners and our watchers to get to know yourself, and we look forward to seeing you sacking some quarterbacks here in a year or two.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Certainly appreciate the time from Aaron Graves. And I'll tell you, we recorded that interview before signing day. And, you just watch him on tape. And I know he's playing lesser competition, but man, the kid's motor just does not stop. He's dominant. Iowa needs a good one-on-one pass rusher. I think he's going to come in right away and play. I do. Zach Van Valkenburg will be gone. They need a guy off the edge. And maybe Brian Allen Jr., another kid that committed late on signing day, maybe he can come in and help. But, boy, Graves just has all the physical attributes that you want, and he could be the next great thing on that defensive line for the Hawkeyes. We appreciate you joining us for week 185 of Brada's Branded Thoughts. Again, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button And also turn on notifications, because whenever we release content, you'll get notified on your phone, tablet, wherever you listen to YouTube, watch YouTube videos, you'll be notified. So please subscribe. It helps us out, and it helps you out in staying up to date on the latest Hawkeye content. Thank you for joining us. We will talk to you soon. I'm Corey Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm.